An ITV News report from Gaza has become the focus of attention across the country and around the world. It was mentioned today in Parliament for highlighting possible Israeli war crimes. It shows a Palestinian man under the protection of a white flag being shot dead in a location where Israeli troops were operating. The leader of the SNP in Westminster, Stephen Flynn, suggested that amounted to a war crime. Yesterday, the Israeli Defence Forces told us they were not aware of the incident and they claimed we had edited the pictures. Well, today, they would not comment. We first showed the images on News at 10 last night and are about to do so again. Now, they are, by their very nature, extremely distressing and not everyone will want to watch. Our senior international correspondent, John Irvine, who compiled yesterday's hard-hitting report, now examines the reaction to it.
On last night's News at 10, we broadcast these pictures filmed by a cameraman working for ITV News in Gaza. While focusing on civilians vacating an area now being fought over, he came across this group of men who wanted to retrace their steps to get other relatives out of the danger zone. After interviewing 51-year-old Ramzi Abu Sahloul, the cameraman walked away and then filmed this. Mr. Abu Sahloul was shot in the chest. Here you can see his blood seeping into the white flag that he had hoped would be their shield. As the group of men tried to extricate his body, there was more gunfire. Our coverage of this incident was raised in the House of Commons this afternoon during Prime Minister's questions.
Mr. Speaker, last night, as Tory MPs were once again fighting amongst themselves, the public were sat at home watching John Irvine of ITV News report on footage from Gaza of an unarmed Palestinian man walking under a white flag, being shot and killed by the IDF. Prime Minister, such an act constitutes a war crime, does it not?
Mr. Speaker, we've been absolutely consistent that international humanitarian law should be respected and civilians should be protected. I've made that point expressly to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and the Foreign Secretary is in the region this week making exactly the same point.
Stephen Flynn.
In a follow-up question, Mr. Flynn referred to the ITV drama about the post office scandal.
Now, in recent weeks, this House has acted with urgency and intent following an ITV drama. The question is, will this House now show the same urgency and intent following this ITV News report? And finally, back a ceasefire in Gaza.
Mr. Speaker, no one wants to see this conflict go on for a moment longer than necessary, and we do want to see an immediate and sustained humanitarian pause to get more aid in and, crucially, the hostages out.
Prior to meeting Israel's Prime Minister in Jerusalem today, the Foreign Secretary said he was pushing for a ceasefire. This afternoon, at least 9 Palestinians were killed and 75 wounded in an explosion at a UN building in which at least 800 evacuees have been sheltering. This happened in southern Gaza, where almost 2 million people are crammed in, with more arriving by the day, pushed down the strip over the course of this war by the advancing Israeli army. The IDF believes it has the Hamas leadership cornered in the south, but those terrorist commanders are hiding behind more Palestinian civilians than ever.
Well, John joins us now from Tel Aviv. John, incredibly distressing pictures in your report there. It just has to beg the question, isn't a ceasefire more remote now than ever?
Mary, strangely, I think a ceasefire, some sort of cessation is possible, and here's why. The shooting of Mr. Abu Sahloul and those fatalities in southern Gaza today tell you just how vulnerable Palestinians are down there, because there are so many of them crammed in. And there are fears that if Israel prosecutes the war with full force, in southern Gaza. Extensive civilian casualties will be unavoidable, even including the lives of the Israeli hostages who are probably in southern Gaza by now as well. That's why mediators are working on some sort of cessation. A sticking point is Hamas's fear that once they release all the hostages, Israel will simply resume the war. Hamas want to survive this war in some shape or form, but that's a problem for the Israelis. Mr. Netanyahu says Hamas must be completely destroyed. So one possibility is another limited truce with some hostages released and ongoing negotiations to see if that arrangement could be extended.
OK. John Irvine in Tel Aviv, thank you.